What's up, TKO Nation? Welcome back to the TKO Podcast. Make sure you tune in.
Alrighty, folks. Welcome back, baby. We are so back. We're so back. We're back to pay-per-view after 1 week away from one. I mean, I don't know what we did to deserve this, but, you know, you look at the card, you've got a pretty, stacked card at the top. Some fun fights, some recognizable names more than anything. But you look a little deeper and you notice that nobody on this card is in title contention at the moment. And there's not really any high-stakes matchups. I mean, there's a couple of fights where a guy might get finally broken through the top 10 or, keep a winning streak going or, put a veteran out to pasture, that kind of thing. But, pretty fun card. Not the most... monumental, there's not a ton weighing on this card, but nonetheless, there's a lot of fun fights on here, and at the top of the bill, you have a fight between two legends of the sport in Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier, in what is Dustin Poirier's retirement fight in Louisiana. So, pretty awesome storyline there. These guys have fought 3 times now, or this will be their 3rd fight, I should say. First fight was Max's debut, if I'm not mistaken, if not his 2nd fight in the UFC, and Poirier's 4th, and Poirier submitted him in 2 minutes. 2nd fight, they both had already, Max had been a champion at featherweight. He was moving up to lightweight to fight for the interim belt against Poirier, and it was a classic fight, a war in which Poirier won. So Poirier's up 2-0 now, but, this is kind of an interesting trilogy because a lot of times trilogies are done within a span of 2 years, maybe, you know what I mean? For example, the Frankie and Gray Maynard trilogy, they had the first fight, and then a few years later they had the 2nd fight, and then the 3rd fight right after. Usman versus Edwards, another example. They had the first fight, a few years later they had the 2nd fight, and then the 3rd fight right after. Volkanovski versus Holloway, another trilogy that all happened within the same span of 3 years. This is a unique trilogy in the sense that it's taken place over the course of 10 years. More than that, I think. I think their first fight was in 2012. So we're looking at a trilogy that's taking place over the course of 13 years, which is essentially the course of both of their whole careers, You had one fight when they were both prospects. You had one fight when they were both title challengers / in contention or champions. And then now we're getting a fight between two guys who have both lost by finish in their most recent fight, going for the belt. And it kind of seems like neither of them are really going to get to the gold again. 1 second. Sorry about that. Kitty was screaming her little head off. I thought she wanted in. Apparently she was already in. She wanted out. Anyway, so... yeah, it's kind of interesting because it's taking place over, different points in both of their careers and kind of concurrently in those points, so to speak. So it's a fun fight for sure. It's a very historic fight. I think this is going to be one of those trilogies that when people talk about the history of MMA in 100 years time or whatever, this is going to be one of those stories that is a fascinating one, And I think it's going to be even more interesting if Max Holloway gets it done this weekend, I think the 2nd fight was very close. Holloway started to do really good work with the body shots and stuff, but maybe a little bit too late. And also, that was his first fight at lightweight, and we saw him have a big trouble with the power of Poirier in that fight. And particularly his guard, his, Philly shell with the elbow out. I remember Holloway going back to the corner and being like, he's blocking weird, and he couldn't figure it out. But once he, started to get his foot on the pedal in the 3rd, I believe it was, he started racking up some momentum in that 3rd and 4th. 5th round, he lost due to the power of Poirier. But it was a close fight, man. It was a close fight. It was a good fight. Really good fight. And I'm expecting this fight to be of that same cloth. I think this fight's going to be really fun. I think both guys are going to be, gunning for it. Poirier, I'm sure, wants to go out on a high note. Holloway, I'm sure, wants to get back in the win column. And, really, candidly, if he wins this fight, who's to say he's not going to fight for the title in another fight or two? You know what I mean? And although Holloway did get knocked out by Topuria in his last fight, He looked amazing against Gaethje in the fight before that at lightweight. So, I mean, I think it's safe to say that the weight cut took a lot out of Holloway in that performance against Topuria. Not that Topuria would do any worse against him at lightweight. I think Topuria would still knock him out at lightweight, but I do think that Holloway at this age at 155 is going to be fighting more to his full potential than he was at 45 in his last performance. That being said, I really don't know who's going to win this fight, and now I'm starting to ramble. It's been like 6 minutes just talking about this one fight. But, yeah, ultimately, from a betting perspective, I would stay away from this fight altogether, honestly. I mean, if you are very confident in one or the other side, the fight is essentially a pick'em. So, I mean, there's value on both sides, or you can look at it that there's no value on either side. But I think more often than not, this fight will go to decision. I think both guys are super tough. We've seen that throughout their career. I can't really picture Holloway putting Gaethje out. I mean, but I couldn't see him taking out putting Poirier out. I'm sorry, but I couldn't see him taking out Gaethje either, and he did. Poirier, I don't know. I guess he could knock out Holloway. You could look at this fight objectively from a standing away position and say like, oh, Holloway got knocked out in his last fight. Poirier hits a lot hard. Hits really hard. So maybe Poirier will knock him out too. But Poirier just, he hasn't stopped anybody with his hands in a long time. Well, I guess Benoit Saint Denis was the last one, but yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's a really tough fight to bet on. I probably wouldn't, honestly. Probably not going to put this one in the betting slip. But if I was going to take a side, yeah, I really can't pick one because on one hand it's like Poirier has his number, right? You'd think he has his number. He has the tools to beat Holloway, beat him twice. But this is a different version of both guys than we've ever seen fight each other. On the other hand, Holloway is the younger fighter. He's quick. He's a lot faster than Poirier at this weight. Even though he's not that fast in general, I think at lightweight he holds a decided speed advantage. We saw it in the Gaethje fight, and Gaethje and Poirier I would put in a similar vein of speed. So yeah, I mean, it's a tough fight to call. It's going to be a really fun fight to watch, though. So I'm looking forward to that. Honestly, it might be worth putting money on the draw. I could see Poirier winning a 10-8 and Holloway winning 3 rounds and then Poirier winning another round, and that's a draw right there. And how many more like storybook endings can we get? You know what I mean? It'd be sick if it was a draw, honestly. And the draw is like plus 8,000 on Bet365, so I don't know. Maybe throw a flyer on there. But anyway, let's go down the card. Next fight, you have Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov. This is a fight I am very confident in. I believe Roman Kopylov is a monster. I'm a huge fan of him. I met him, actually. He came to my restaurant and dined there. And I came over. I said, good luck tomorrow. That was when he was fighting Cesar Almeida in Newark. And I went for a fist bump. And he gave me the fist bump. It felt like a shotgun, dude. This dude hit so hard. Even just a fist bump was like, oh shit. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, this guy hits really hard. He's great technique. Very good at fighting forwards and backwards. And I think that's something that is going to be very important in this fight against Costa. Costa, these last few years, has been fighting a much more conservative style. He looked pretty good, honestly, against Robert Whittaker. And I think there was another fight he had there that he looked like decent in. Where was that? Against Sean Strickland. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that wasn't a great showing from Costa. And although it was a split decision, it really shouldn't have been. I was there live, and I was like, man, Strickland is, just dog walking him. Classic Strickland fight that sucks. Turn the crowd against him and everything, But anyway, yeah, that's enough about that. Paulo Costa has not been in great form recently, and I expect him to lose this fight. That being said, he is one of the toughest motherfuckers in the sport. The dude has an insane chin. The only reason he was ever stopped by strikes from Israel Adesanya was because of the leg kicks. Kopylov does have a good leg kicking game, but he's not one to really harp on it. I think Kopylov is going to be able to beat the shit out of Paulo Costa and win this fight on the scorecards more often than not. At plus 100 for him to win by decision, I think it's a steal. So that's where I'm going to go here. I'm going to go Kopylov by decision. Next, we have Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez. Kevin Holland, with this fight, it'll be his 4th fight in the calendar year. If he has one more, he ties his own record at 5. And if he gets another one before the end of the year, he breaks his own record at 6. So, I personally think that this is a pretty low-risk matchup for Holland. And, I mean, at the money line of minus 450, I think the odds makers agree, and the general pundits agree. I do expect Holland to get this one done. The question is how. Holland is one of those people who can get it done any way he wants. He has a ton of submissions. We saw in his last fight. He has a few knockouts as well. Obviously he's won a few decisions too. But more than anything, I think he's a finisher through and through. Rodriguez has looked incredibly slow lately and has never been the most durable guy. Not that he's like particularly chinny, but he does get rocked relatively often, and it's more often than not when he does get rocked, he's able to kind of tough it out and close the distance and clinch up, or his opponent maybe doesn't pull the right punches and can't get him out of there. But I think Holland has the finishing ability to put Daniel Rodriguez away, and I really think he will. I think first or second round he'll probably knock him out. I could see him getting a submission. They don't call him the Darce Knight for no reason. The guy loves his Bravos, loves his Darces, loves his Anacondas. His front headlock series is really incredible. I could see that happening here, but I kind of can't shake the feeling that Holland's going to knock him out. So I think going Holland by finish in any event will be good, but first or second round I think is a safer bet too. Anyway, play it around there I think is good. I don't really see this fight. I mean, it could go to decision, but I kind of feel like Holland's one of those guys who wants the finish, and he wants to, keep that streak going he has right now. So give me Holland by finish. Next, you got Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull. This is another super easy fight for me to pick. I think Dan Ige is just a lot better at this stage of his career than Patricio Pitbull is. Pitbull is washed. He's old. He's slow. He's not the most durable. Dan Ige is the most durable. That guy is fucking tough as nails, and he hits really hard. I could see Ige knocking out Pitbull in this fight, but more realistically, I think Ige should be able to just win a decision here. I think he's the better striker. I think he's quicker. I think he's, more powerful. I think Pitbull has a pretty good ground game, a really good ground game, but Ige has really good takedown defense and defense on the ground when it gets there. So I expect Pitbull to make it competitive for about a round and then get tired and old, and Ige just pick it up second round, third round, 29-28, 50K Ige, easy. Give me Dan Ige here by decision. I think it's a safe bet. He might knock him out, but yeah, I think Ige in general is a safe bet, but by decision I feel pretty confident in. I mean, I'd put that and Kopilov by decision in a parlay, just those two, and ride that shit home. Next, you got Daniel Zellhuber versus Michael Johnson, and what kind of shameless matchmaking is this? You know what I mean? We're putting the young vet, or the young gunner, against the old vet in Michael Johnson. They want Michael Johnson to get knocked out here. They want Michael Johnson to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory again. And I can see it. I can see it happening. I mean, I think Johnson's going to win the first round, honestly. I think he's going to win the first round. I think he's going to look really fast in the first round, and Zellhuber's somebody who kind of warms into the fight. Johnson's going to be looking sharp, and we're going to be like, man, Michael Johnson, not too bad. Not as bad as we thought he'd be. And then, boom, he's going to get knocked out cold. So give me Zellhuber by knockout second or third round. I think that's relatively safe to say. Yeah. Next fight, we've got Kyler Phillips versus Vinicius Oliveira. Now, this is another one that I'm super confident in, honestly. I mean, I think Oliveira has every tool to beat Kyler Phillips. Phillips is one of those dudes who kind of drowns you with cardio and volume. And Oliveira is the kind of dude who has the power to stop guys like that. Or not stop them as in knock them out. I mean, he can. But stop them as in, your shit's not going to work here, buddy. Your fucking leaf blower shit's not going to work here, pal. Oliveira is super tenacious, throws a lot of venom on his punches and his kicks, and more than anything, I think he has great shot selection, and that's going to be a big tool here against Kyler Phillips, who leaves a lot of openings, but tries to drown out your volume with his own. Kyler Phillips wants you to hit him once, and he'll hit you 3 times. Oliveira's going to hit you once so hard that you can't hit him 3 more times. You know what I mean? And even if you do, it's not going to count as much. I expect Oliveira to get this done this weekend by decision. Phillips is one of the most tough guys in the sport, and Oliveira, as highly touted a finisher as I praise him to be, I think he might have some trouble finding that chin of Phillips, but I do think the leg kicks are going to be there. I think the body kicks are going to be there. I think his punch, his boxing is going to be there. I expect Oliveira to get this done, man. I just think he's the better fighter. It's just a matter of if he's going to be able to finish him, which I personally don't think he will. I think Phillips is really tough, so I'm going to go with Oliveira by decision. Again, this one, Ige by decision and Kopilov by decision. I mean, come on, this is easy picks here, boys. Next, you got Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen. Now, this is a fight I feel like I've seen 3 times, but they've never fought, apparently. Brendan Allen, well-rounded guy, bad cardio, but well-rounded guy and a finisher. Marvin Vettori, no skills, but uber tough. Yeah, I mean, that's really all there is to it. Marvin Vettori's a wrestler, He's supposed to be a wrestler. He throws this really shitty 1-1-2 that he throws all the time. The guy just looked so bad in his last fight against Roman Dolidze. It was like, how are you more stiff and slow than Roman Dolidze, bro? Like, come on. Really upsetting performance, unfortunate, He won a fight against somebody that I personally felt like he should have. Was it Dolidze? I think it was Dolidze because they rematched, yeah? Yeah. He won that fight against Dolidze the first time, and it was like, he probably shouldn't have won that. And then the second fight, he lost. Yeah, man. I mean, Allen has more gas in the tank in his career, so to speak. He has worse cardio than Vettori, but it doesn't matter because Vittori's not going to do anything. Vettori does seem to be coming into this fight with some venom, and, I could see him winning because Allen is such a bad decision maker, and Vettori is such an idiot. It's not going to matter what decisions he makes. But again, this is a really dangerous fight to bet on because the favorite's minus 210. You know what I mean? Allen's coming in at minus 210. I really don't have faith in him at that number, Maybe him by decision. Again, similar to the Oliveira fight, similar to the Ige fight, similar to the Kopilov fight. This guy's better than him, but I don't think he'll be able to put him away. So I think Allen by decision is a good bet here. But I could see Vettori winning a decision if he just, can wrestle Allen and, win the second and third round on his cardio. That being said, I'm going to stay away from that fight, but I do feel like Allen by decision is a safe bet here. Next we got Francisco Prado versus Nikolai Veretennikov. I don't know these guys. Hopefully it'll be a fun fight. Atiba Gautier versus Robert Valentin. This is a volatile matchup here at middleweight. Both guys, big gunners. Both guys suck on the ground, so hopefully it doesn't go there. And, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Valentin because he's been wrestled by Torres Finney and somebody else. But, I think he's a better fighter than his record shows. I think he's very explosive, and he's good at finding spots. I remember on The Ultimate Fighter, he had a lot of success with some comeback knockouts. Gautier, as good as he seems, is certainly a front runner. So if he can't get Valentin out of there early, I expect him to gas out, and I expect Valentin to maybe find a knockout in the second or third. But again, this is a fun fight to watch and a bad fight to bet on, so I would just stay away. Next, we've got Adam Fugitt versus Islam Dulatov. Dulatov has been on a kind of a wrecking tear right now. He's looked really good lately. And he'll probably just keep those winning ways rolling here against Fugitt, who's really tough, but that's about it. So, yeah, I mean, I'd probably go Dulatov. Oh, wow, this is not who I thought it was. This guy's coming in on... This is his UFC debut. And he has all finishes? Jesus Christ. All right, so... Yeah, I mean, Dulatov by finish, I guess. We'll see what happens. Maybe Fugitt is the UFC level that, is tough enough to make this guy test his gas tank. Either way, stay away from that fight. Fun fight to watch. Jimmy Crute versus Marcin Prachnio. Oh, man. How washed is Jimmy Crute, man? If he can't beat Marcin Prachnio at this stage, you got to hang him up. You know what I mean? He won his last fight, I think, against... Was it Menefield? No, it was a draw against Bellato. Man, that was tough, dude. This guy has 2 draws in his last 3 fights. Really tough go at it for Crute. And, yeah, I mean, here against Prachnio, he should win. Prachnio sucks. But Prachnio is somebody who's going to stick to their game plan of just moving around and leg kicking you. So, I mean, he might be able to beat Crute with that kind of strategy. Because Crute is sort of listless, He looked good in that last fight, but, again, it was a draw. It was too little too late. But, yeah, so, I mean, that's a fun fight. I don't know who's going to win. Prachnio at plus 240 is super juicy. Pacquiao by decision, I'm sure, is awesome too at like 350 or so. Yeah, but I would just stay away. Next, you got Ryan Spann versus Lucas Bresky. We're going to try out this Ryan Spann at heavyweight thing one more time. He looked like shit. He looked like absolute shit against Waldo Cortez Acosta. I was embarrassed because I bet on Ryan Spann in that fight, thinking that Waldo Cortez sucks. Of course, Ryan Spann's going to beat him. That's not how it played out. Waldo Cortez actually got the knockout. Oh, you get knocked out by Cortez Acosta? That's a bad look, bro. Spann looked like dog shit. He didn't look like he filled out and went to heavyweight. It looked like he got a gut and went to heavyweight. It was somebody who has talked about in his career that he's not, always training so hard. He's not super focused on the game, and when he does get focused, he does good performances, but when he's not, you see what happens. He's fighting Lucas Bresky, who's essentially a punching bag at this stage. Yeah, Ryan Spann should win this, but the way he looked like shit in that last fight, I'm not confident in him. That being said, if he's going to win, it's going to be by first round finish. He always wins in the first round if he does win. So I think, putting a flyer on Spann first round is not a bad idea. Putting a flyer on Bresky by finish 2 because Spann looked like shit in his last fight is not a bad idea. But again, super volatile matchup. I'd stay away from it. Bruno Ferreira versus Jackson McVeigh. Poor Jackson McVeigh. He's getting fed to Bruno Ferreira. Ferreira's probably going to knock his head off in the first or second round. And then you got Carly Judice versus Nicole Carlieri. Judice, I saw her get an awesome knockout with a head kick, I think it was. Might have been a body kick and punches, but she seems to have really good striking at this level for women's flyweight, and is a pretty bright prospect, all things considered. So hopefully she can get it done and keep the winning ways rolling. She's a pretty big favorite in this fight, so I think the odds makers are expecting that. But yeah, might be worth a flyer to put on her by knockout. Yeah, all right, let's go down the card here. We're going to go down the betting slip, so to speak. Yeah, we'll start with the main event. I'm not going to bet on it, man. I'm going to stay away from this one. I think it's a dangerous fight. I think it's a really fun fight, but one I'm not going to be confident putting my money down on. And co-main event, I got Kopylov by decision. Next, I got Holland by finish. Then I got Dan Ige by decision. I'm going to take Vinicius Oliveira by decision as well. And yeah, I feel pretty good there. 4 picks. We'll see how it goes. You could throw in Allen by decision. You could throw in, Spann round 1. You can throw in Zellhuber, KO rounds 2 or 3. But I'm going to stick with those 4 because I'm really confident in them, honestly. So we got Kopylov, Holland, Ige, Oliveira. Kopylov, Ige, and Oliveira, I'd put all by decision. Holland, I'd put by finish. But that's where we're at on the betting slip. That's where we're at on this card. Honestly, pretty fun card now that I've broken it down. I'm looking forward to it. The main event's going to be sick. There's a couple of really fun fights interspersed in the middle there. But more than anything, I think there's a lot of betting value on those decision props that I laid out. Put those together. No reason you can't turn $10 into 150, you know what I mean? But I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much for watching. Much love, y'all. Check out my latest video on Jessica Andrade titled Who is the Winningest Women in UFC History. Awesome, fun video I made. It was only like 9 minutes, so you got the time for it. Don't worry. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Peace out.